Hey guys, Jeff here with Grid City Fitness and Performance, and today I want to cover goal setting. Now, I'm sure you've set a goal before in the past, but when you set that goal, it might not have been something that's really a true goal. The reason I say it's not a true goal is it's because it was probably something that wasn't something specific to yourself. It was something that you could have already accomplished or can accomplish currently, or it just wasn't very specific. So, what I want to talk to you today is about goal setting, how to do it, and how to get the best from it. So first off, I want to talk about these two boxes. These two boxes right here basically are one, where you're at, which is current, your current reality. Okay, so hopefully you can read that. But this small box over here is your current reality. Your goal is over here, which is your outcome. Now, what you might notice is your current reality box is fairly small in relation to your outcome. The reason for this is because when you set a goal, the goal that you're setting is something that you currently can't do. Okay, if you can currently do it, it shouldn't be a goal. You should just take action and go do it. What that means is, for instance, an easy goal for someone, it might be to say, hey, my goal is to run 5 miles. Well, if I can put on my shoes today and go outside and run 5 miles, that's not a goal. That's an object that I can actually accomplish today, which means I don't have to have any sort of growth or improvement to actually hit that goal. It's something that's capable now. So when you set a goal, the goal is always something that you cannot achieve in the present moment as your present self. Okay? Now when I say present self, that just means you and where you're currently at. Okay? Now, we have to look and understand that our current reality is where we're at, and our outcome is where we want to go. And to get to our outcome, we need to become a bigger and better version of ourselves. Now, to do that though, we must have 3 things in place. Those 3 things are, 1, the goal must be measurable. So I must be able to actually measure exactly what it is that I want to accomplish, right? Now, is it 20 pounds? Is it that I want to bench press 250 pounds? Is it that I want to lose 20 pounds or, I've already said that, but lose 20 pounds, bench press 250 pounds for 10 reps, run a marathon in 3 hours, right? Those are all measurable goals, okay? If it's not measurable, you can't track it. You can't actually observe if you're getting closer, okay? Second thing is specific. Your goal must be specific. Without specificity, you have no real tangible idea of if you're there or if you're going to be there. So, if you just say, hey, I want to lose weight, that's not specific, that's general. If you say, I want to get in shape, that's general, not specific. If you say, I want to be able to just run a marathon, well, that's not specific because you don't have a measurable data point, and it's not specific enough because it's pretty open in general, right? So we want to make sure our goals are measurable, where we can track and see if we're getting closer or further away from. They need to be specific so they know exactly what we're doing and if we're going to accomplish it. And the last thing is, I like to say they must be impossible. Now, when I say they must be impossible to the version of yourself you are currently at. What does that mean? Well, like I already said, if my current reality is someone that can lace up my shoes and go run 5 miles, well then my goal is not very big, and it's not something that should truly be a goal because it's something I can actually do currently. It needs to be something that pushes you and is a stretch goal almost. So I say it must be impossible. It must be impossible to the version of yourself that you are currently in, right? So to lose 20 pounds, I need to change who I am. Boom to boom, right? So that is impossible to me currently because I need to change my nutrition priorities, my training, and some of my actions to align with the new version, the bigger, better version of myself. Okay? So that's the most important pieces, is knowing that where you're currently at is your current reality. Your goal must be something bigger and better than where you're currently at that is 1, measurable, 2, specific, and 3, impossible to the version of yourself you currently are at. Now let me erase this real quick and we'll move on. So now we get into the actual fun part of goal setting. And goal setting basically has some sort of deadline specificity in the sense of what it is that you want to accomplish and when you want to accomplish it by. Typically, I run in 90-day challenges or 90-day goals. So, what we have to think about here is current. Then we've got 90-day. So hopefully, again, you can see this. Now, if we really looked at it, our 90-day goal is something nice and large. So let's fill that in. Our current is where we're sitting at now, which is, again, that small box. Now, I like 90-day goals. The reason I like 90-day goals is because they give me two benchmarks in between. They give me a 30-day goal, and they also give me a 60-day goal. Now, we take it back to what we already talked about. Measurable, specific, impossible. Now, if we look at where we're currently at, and we look at where we want to go in relation to our goals, and we look over the course of 90 days, we would then break it down and make it very, very simple. Okay? But what we also do here is we have our 30-day and we have our 60-day. What I use those for is basically benchmarks. They're tracking points. They're mile markers. They're showing me am I getting closer or further away. Now, when you look at it like this, you can see that you're actually going to be making improvements every week to month. Now, again, I'm using a 90-day chart, but if you wanted to do this over the course of 6 weeks, 8 weeks, 1 year, whatever it might be. I like 90 because then I have 4 of them a year. When I have 90-day outcomes, 90-day goals, I get to set 4 different targets throughout the year for whatever I'm shooting for my goals. So, now let's look back at it. We're in our current position. We have our small little box here. We have our 90-day goal and outcome that we want to accomplish that we've already figured out, which is measurable, specific, and impossible. Now we get to work. Now what we do here is we know what we need to do. We know that we want to get to this point up here with all my 90-day goals. But from there, we get to look and we can use our benchmarks to see if we're on point. Hopefully, if we do this correctly, at our 30-day, we're 1/3 to our goal. So I'd have a little bit bigger box. I've grown into becoming a better version of myself and gotten myself closer to my targets or goal outcomes. Then from there, we continue to work towards our goals. We then have our 60-day goal, which again, grows a little bit more. Now with our 60-day goal, we have started to fill in more gaps. We have started to get better. We have started to get very, very close. We're almost 2/3 the way to our goal. And then we have our 90-day goals, which then is what we're actually trying to obtain. But we use the 30-day and the 60-day as more of a benchmark. They're the ways that we see if we're on track or off track, right? It makes it a whole lot easier because we've already covered measurable, we've already covered specific, and we've already covered impossible. Now we've taken ourselves from our current level, which is where we're at today. We set our 90-day goals, or 6 weeks, 8 weeks, 1 year, whatever it might be. And then we also use a 30-day outcome and a 60-day outcome to measure if we're on track. Now, what I like to do here is I also like to set those as mini goals, right? So I have my 90-day goal. Let's say my 90-day goal was to lose 20 pounds. So I'm going to change pens real quick. If my 90-day goal was to lose 20, oh, that's not a good pen. If my 90-day goal was to lose 20 pounds, which hopefully you can see that again. My 90-day goal is to lose 20 pounds. What that means is at my 60-day mark, I should be 2/3 of the way there. So if we really realistically looked at this, I'd just say it's 7 pounds. So at my 60-day mark, I should be down 14 pounds. At my 30-day mark, what should I be down? 7 pounds. Now, what this shows me is if I'm on track or off track. Now, it also helps me realign and what I call course correct. So what this says here is that if I start where I'm at, I have a big outlandish goal that's measurable, specific, and impossible to the current version of myself. I set my 90-day goal or end outcome goal, and then I work back. And I can see how much I have to grow at each benchmark or mile marker. Now, what this helps me do here is, let's say I go through my first 30 days on my goals or on my way to my target outcomes. At my 30-day mark, let's say I have lost 0 pounds. Well, that means that I'm still in my current reality at 30 days, which means either I need to change my goals or I need to change my outcomes to align more with my goals that I'm trying to accomplish. When I understand this, then I can do what's called course correction and make the adjustment to either turn and divert myself into the other direction to figure out how to now make my gap of 20 pounds in the next 60 days, or I change my goal, right? So instead of shooting for a goal that's impossible or something that you already know you aren't going to hit, you actually realign yourself to have a new measurable specific goal. So again, once I hit my 30-day mark, am I on track or off track? I then adjust myself to figure out whether I need to make a complete course correction, change my direction, or if I'm on track. At that point, we then continue on our journey and we hit our 60-day mark. At our 60-day mark, we again look, am I on track, off track? Is my benchmark on point or off point? Do I need to make a course correction? Do I need to adjust what I'm doing? Maybe when I got to my 60-day mark, instead of losing 14 pounds, I've already lost 20. Well, then I'm on track. Or maybe at my 60-day mark, I've only lost 4 now. So now I need to figure out how I'm going to lose the extra 16 pounds. Well, then I make my course correction for the next 30 days. Either I change my goal, change my tactics, or keep on track depending on if it's on point. And then from there, I've now hit my goal at my 90-day mark. Now all of a sudden, my goals don't seem so important or impossible, and they seem like something that's actually attainable. Now the other benefit of this is each time you do a 30 or 60 or benchmark, you actually get to get excited about your progress. Instead of being down about yourself because you have this outlandish goal of 20 pounds, now you get to see, hey, I'm on track. I'm successful. But when I just look at saying, hey, I want to lose 20 pounds, and you might have only been working out for 2 weeks and you're down 4, well, shit, I still have 16 pounds to go. You're never going to be happy about it because you don't see that you're actually on track. You just see this big end number that you're shooting for and don't realize that you're actually taking these steps and going in the direction of your goal. So that's the simple tactic for setting yourself up for success when it comes to your goals. First, going back to our original board, if I had it, is realizing that you currently have a small reality. Your outcome should be something that's outlandish, specific, measurable, and impossible to the current version of yourself. At that point, again, it needs to be impossible to the current version of yourself. Otherwise, if it's something you can go do currently or in the next week, it shouldn't be a goal. It's not a goal, okay? So then from there, we then mark out our 90-day outcomes, or however long of terms outcomes you want. You figure out what the benchmarks or mile markers are going to be in that. So if I was using an 8-week program, I would probably do this at 3 and 6 weeks. Or if I'm doing a 90-day program, I'm going to do 30 and 60 days. So kind of quarter marks, right? Or third marks. From there, I then figure out what my goal is, my end goal, and then I work backwards in those increments. Now I get to see if I'm on track or off track. I get to see if I need to change my direction, change my goal, or keep on what I'm doing, and if I'm going to hit my targets. It's that simple, guys. There's no reason to make your goals any more complicated or challenging than they need to be. Set the goal, set the time frame, make sure it's measurable, specific, and impossible to the current version of yourself, and then from there, work backwards from those end outcomes. At that point, you're going to have benchmarks and mile markers that you will get to use as trackers to see if you're on point or off point. Again, when you're on point or off point, there's 3 outcomes that you're going to have happen. You're going to course correct to make the modifications you need to go back in the direction that you want. So again, if I was on 4 pounds at 30 days, then I need to course correct to realign my direction and my sail to point me towards that 20. I change my goal if it's not something that I think is physically possible, or I need to change the goal because I'm not going to hit it, or I stay the course and continue to do what I do and hit my result. Now again, the reason we also like this process is because it shows you your wins and it keeps you on point. When you don't acknowledge your own successes, you will never be happy with what you accomplish. You'll always be chasing the next thing. And if you also are not seeing your results or seeing accomplishments in those results, you're never going to be happy until you get to that end. So you should be celebrating the successes you have and notifying yourself of them during these benchmark miles. So that's the easy process to set your goals, hit your targets, and align yourself in an impossible goal that's actually attainable and trackable and measurable. If you have any questions or want help setting goals and wanting to get yourself on the right plan to achieve your success and achieve your goals, click the link above and let's chat.